Canterbury, Steve Lowndes and Catherine Trout.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for this opportunity to present our submission to you. Before I start, may I convey some news? Councillor Farm had a little boy yesterday.
Oh, great.
And both are very well. We value our strong relationship with the City Council, and we look forward to working alongside the Council in all areas where our responsibilities overlap. Environment Canterbury and the City Council work in partnership in the implementation of the Canterbury Water Management Strategy. Your leadership and engagement across these programs is very much appreciated. We're very supportive of the measures proposed within the draft LTP that will lead to improvements in the city's water quality, waterway health, biodiversity and flood mitigation. We note in particular efforts to improve outcomes in waterways prioritised by the Christchurch West Melton Zone Committee and look forward to seeing the improvement that will come from this work. And may I add there that we're glad to be partnering you in the submission to the Local Government New Zealand on copper brake pads. And I sent a message to Leanne the other day saying that at the regional sector meeting in Wellington on Friday, the whole of the sector chose to support our remit. So that puts us in a very strong position with Local Government New Zealand. We understand the funding pressures faced by the city. We do, however, strongly recommend that funding is allocated to those programs that will help drive behaviour change, that will need to be improved, environmental outcomes over the long term. The role and value of Enviro Schools programme cannot be overemphasised, and we ask that the Council make an ongoing commitment to this programme. Without long-term commitment, the programme in the city will have to be withdrawn from schools and early childhood centres from July 2018. We also strongly support the proposed community water partnership, although we note that no funding is allocated to this in the Council's draft long-term plan. The programme developed by the partnership will help create a framework to work with the community together to improve waterways through behaviour change, education and awareness initiatives. Environment Canterbury is focused on providing a sustainable public transport service. We support the continuation of an accessible city project and the level of an expenditure proposed for public transport infrastructure projects. We do advocate that these are accelerated and completed where possible. This will help ensure that we can develop a transport system that delivers to the expectations of our community. The Public Transport Joint Committee, I think, is an invaluable forum where we work together, as is the Water Forum. Both of those joint committees, I think, are extremely valuable in aligning our interests where they overlap. I take the submission itself as having been scanned, and those are the few points that I would like to highlight.
Thank you very much, Steve. It's good to see you. Vicky.
Thank you, Steve. Sustainable public transport. How are we getting on with the transfer to electric buses?
I know only what you know, that Redbus is looking to install install a service to the airport.
I don't mean
citywide.
I mean citywide, through changing the rules so that it's not a constant race to the bottom.
We still haven't landed on that. It's a desire, I think, which we all share. I think me more than many around the table, because I'm particularly aware of the issues confronting us through emissions and climate change. And I would like to support
So what could we both do to make that a reality?
Continue to have our staff working together to a common goal to make that a reality.
Dion?
I just wanted to touch on the sustainable transport thing as well. Sustainable transport, obviously, what Vicky was saying, is about your, the goal of going emissions. But from what I hear, is sustainable transport options in ECAN's view is potentially about money rather than actually a service to the community. So I mean, am I correct in thinking that it's the sustainable about it's got to make its own versus it actually being a service to the community?
All of the above. We were caught in a very difficult situation where we were spending reserves to subsidise bus routes. And when we put out that proposal in our long-term plan that we would cut 6 of the routes, we knew exactly what we were doing. And the response from the public has been huge. And we are doing everything we can to maintain those services, to find a place between the two extremes. And the fact that we had something like 700 submissions on that subject alone is manifest. So yes, we are committed to an accessible public transport system, but it has to be sustainable economically as well as environmentally. I think the emissions issue is going to be the lever ultimately that brings us to mode shift. I can't see any other lever that is going to help us move from single occupancy car journeys to buses and active transport. So yeah, I think emissions is the big one. Yeah.
Tim, Aaron, Phil, Sarah, if we get there.
Thank you. Public transport, buses, etc., they're a service industry like a shop or whatever. When you enter the bus, it is a service, you get customer service, etc. And it's interesting you say you've got 700 people contacting with regards to pulling those services when you were looking at those, because for you they have to be financially sustainable. What do you think that the disconnect is? Because obviously people want to use buses. You've concentrated here on getting the accessible city up and running, but unless people are hopping on the bus, there's no point having the bus coming to town with no one in it. So has ECAN got an idea of where the gap is, what's missing? Because we've heard from the future and we've really got to listen to it. So I'm just wondering, do you know the gap? Are you looking on it?
Well, we're not in an easy situation with regard to public transport in Christchurch. It's very different from Wellington and Auckland. We're a flat city, so we've got this huge cobweb of routes which endeavour to bring in as many passengers and catchments as possible. We're in an environment where motor cars are cheap. Petrol is still relatively cheap, although it's going up. It's now $75 a barrel, coming off a floor of something like $45. There are many, many unknown factors which contribute to the take-up of public transport. But we are both our councils working very hard to make it a sustainable and accessible service.
Aaron?
Yeah, so 2 questions, Steve, so I'll go real quickly. First one is, would you be interested in trialling all kids going to schools on buses for free for a term, to see how it would go, see if we get a massive uptake, because we seem to get our congestion at peak times? Have you looked at that? There
have been several suggestions of things we could do to break the mould, if you like. One of them is have a flat fare of $2. Making school children free, all sorts of things. We're just at the point of introducing Wi-Fi onto 2 routes. So there are little things happening all the time, and I hope cumulatively they have some effect.
And then the other one
I'm getting a sense of frustration that the focus is entirely on transport, which indicates another problem that we should sit down and just talk about offline, perhaps. I mean, we've made a submission on ECAN's LTP around the bus thing. So if I just take Phil and Sarah.
So, thank you, Steve. My question's about water, and you refer to the proposed community water partnership, and part of that, as you say, is around achieving behaviour change through education and awareness. So my question really is around the education part. Do we actually, we've had, I guess, training and teaching around water issues for a long time. Do we have an idea as to what programs work best, to make sure that, in fact, that this partnership works well?
Well, I think it's the engagement of young people. Enviro Schools is very important in that. But anything which empowers young people and volunteer groups to actually do the work on the ground, rather than focusing solely on plans and policies and changes to the plans, to actually get some money going directly down to the ground, which empowers groups which are lining up to do work.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Steve.
Sarah?
Thank you. Just a question on the water quality stuff that you've mentioned here. You've said that you're supportive of measures that lead to improvements in the city's water quality, and we look at the rivers and things like that. Did you have a view on the fact that we're not budgeting enough currently to improve our wastewater, and that we're likely to see increased wastewater overflows into our rivers during the period of the long-term plan?
I haven't got a comment about the quantum of funding, but I do about the importance of wastewater going into the rivers. And as I mentioned, the remit about copper brake pads is really picking the first easy thing that can be changed, and demonstrably one of the biggest pollutants in urban rivers.
That was for our storm water, but I'm talking about our, our sewage and things that, impacting on our waterways and rain events.
I think it's a bottomless pit.
Right, thanks.
Look, thank you very much, and appreciate you making the time to come and submit on the long-term plan. Thank you.